that's why I agree with your ranking in terms of how the players are performing right now and who I think has the best chance to have a big year, basically. I have no idea where the Chiefs are internally on Sky Moore in terms of, is there a player that can be reclaimed in there? Is there something that can be done to expand his usefulness? And if so, then he may end up getting a longer leash than guys they invested less in.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
It's 21 Questions here on KC Sports Network podcast by the people, for the people. I'm Tucker Franklin, joined as always. Well, not really.
Not as always.
Not as always. As frequent.
Actually, Tucker, funny you should say as always.
It is funny that I should say as always. This podcast is brought to you by Bread and Soap for Childhood Cancer. We will talk about them here momentarily. Make sure to stick around to hear more about them. But Josh and I are on 21 Questions. That's Joshua Briscoe. I didn't finish introducing him.
Sorry.
Him before he interrupted.
Or I interrupted you, yeah.
This is Josh and I's second pass-through on this podcast.
42 questions.
42 questions. We're going to be answering a lot of the same questions. The first edition, something happened. There's something wrong with the recording. I didn't feel comfortable putting it out there. There's a quality control coach in me where I didn't want to put that quality out there for KC Sports Network's name to be attached to it. So I said, you know what, Josh, let's just hop on and give the people a good 35-ish minutes. A good quality 35.
Listen,
folks out there.
It's right that this happens right during training camp. Now just after the first day of pads for our second recording here, because as is so often the case in sports, it's going to be the case today here in this podcast. You don't always get to see all the work that goes into the finished product that you so much enjoy. Some days, if it rains in St. Joe, they go to the indoor facilities, and you don't get to watch indoor facility practice. That's behind closed doors, but you may see the fruits of that labor on a Sunday in the fall. Right. What happened for me and Tucker here, that lost episode, it's lost in the hitting the feed sense, but it's not lost in the fact that, Tucker, you and I are one podcast better today than we were yesterday. We've got some of these questions that we'll get, and again, maybe it's going to be some of the same ones we got when we were running through practice, doing our real dress rehearsal, putting the finishing touches on all of that. Maybe there's something unexpected. Maybe you find another question that really hits you this time. Yeah. But no matter how this episode unfolds today, you, dear listener, you should know the work that went in. We are going to have done 42 questions to give you an episode of 21 Questions that's twice as good as the one yesterday would have been.
Right. I think that's the most important thing, is that
so important.
We are doing this for you. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, please do.
Love you guys. Please leave a 5-star rating and review.
Honestly, leave 2.
Yeah, see.
Make a second. Don't make a second account. Don't do anything fraudulent. But if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, awesome. Thank you. Leave a 5-star review there, and go put one on Spotify. But I don't listen to podcasts on Spotify. Doesn't matter. You can go review the podcast on Spotify, or vice versa, whatever podcast app you use. We did 2 episodes of this show. You should give us 2 5-star reviews. I think that's only fair.
I'm just hoping that we don't have the same recording glitch. I can't wait, Josh, for us to get done with this, and then me text you again and be like, guess what, buddy? We get back on the saddle. We're going for 2, 4, 6, 63 questions.
If that happens, should we just, with all of this being said, should we just commit to just the audio that comes out? It's like, hey, listen, you can listen to this and enjoy whatever quality we produce, but I don't. Sometimes the kickoff happens, the ball's in the air, and you just got to play the game. I don't know.
It might just be me screaming into a mic for 13 minutes with a Mint Mobile read in the middle of it because for legal obligations. It might end up being that the podcast if that happens. But yes, this is 21 Questions. If you want to ask questions, you can subscribe to the KCSN Substack. That's kcsn.substack.com. BJ will tell you about that later. You can subscribe For $30 a year, $5 a month, that gets you access to our KCSN Discord. We have a channel inside of the Discord where you can ask questions for 21 questions. We're going to front load this with Chiefs questions. So if you've come here for nonsense, that'll be in the back of the podcast. If you came here for Chiefs, you hit the right spot. So Josh, let's first start with this question from Lee87. Psych, I changed my mind. Let's start this question from Nick Deal. That was a really big pump fake from me.
Yeah, take that, Lee.
Sorry, Lee. Pick your wide receiver room for the season as of right now. Do you think you'll have 5, 6, or 7 guys make the 53-man roster?
You know, Tucker, it's like we just talked about this yesterday, because it is all coming back to me now, because Jordan Foote and I over on ChiefsOnSI.com, ChiefsSI.com, SIChiefs.com, or Kansas City Chiefs on SI.com. They'll all get you there.
Really good on the redirects, by the way.
Thank you. I own all but one of those, and I'll tell you more later. But you can go to any of those, SIChiefs.com, and you can see a roster projection from before pads went on, which again we saw earlier today as we're recording this again on Friday. And so I really wanted to get a 6 wide receiver room locked in, which was easy when we thought Rashid Rice was very likely to be suspended for the start of the year. At this point, I'm less confident in that. It just seems like the longer it drags on, and the fact that, like, Clark Hunt said there had been no conversations. I think Andy Reid said there had been no conversations.
Odd, yeah.
It's odd, and as Seth has highlighted, we've talked about it a little bit on Weird Games, and he's tweeted about it some too. There's even, I don't even think there are dates set for the criminal case yet. There's a date set for the civil suit. This is a total sidetrack that we didn't go on the first edition, so this is where the good extra reps come in. I've been thinking about this last couple of days. The NFL should not feel the need to wait on the legal system to make a decision here, in my opinion, because they are doing something they've done before, which is punish something that is on video that you don't need the legal system to go through and validate. Like, Rashid Rice has apologized for driving the car. We have footage of him leaving the car. Barring something I'm missing, we know what happened there, and I think it would be best for everybody for the NFL to make that decision happen before the preseason even fully begins, honestly. Certainly before week 1. And if they don't suspend him at all this year, and that actually shows up before the 2025 season, that's also fine. That would be fine for the Chiefs. You just don't want him missing the back third of the regular season, right, and then being rusty for the playoffs and out of practice in the offense. And you don't want him to miss the same, whatever it was, 8 games that Justin Ross missed last year, because he never got back into the swing. Rashid Rice is a better and more important player, but just as the one comp that we have. So that whole sidetrack, that free bonus sidetrack for you aside, we got stuck on 7, and then we got caught on what was kind of the final battle for us. I just made Jordan. Jordan had the strongest take of the receiver room. So I said, all right, you write about the receivers and I'll write about the tight ends, and we kind of rotate through in the story on Kansas City Chiefs on SI.com. And his hardline stance is just he does not see the Chiefs, not that they shouldn't, but he does not see the Chiefs giving up on Sky Moore this offseason. Now, we have heard from Nate about this. I have talked to you about this. It has been a bad start for Sky Moore. I wanted to know what he would look like with pads on, because he's also had issues with contact. Sky Moore needs to prove something in terms of what he can be for this team on this roster in this training camp. But I think Jordan makes very reasonable points to say that, man, that's a pretty quick L for the Chiefs to take. My question would be, what does Sky Moore bring to special teams? Because Kadarius Toney is a special teams weapon, and he may be a little bit of a weapon out of the backfield. Nico Remigio is a special teams weapon who might be able to do some unique things in the offense, or at least do useful things in the offense. I don't know if I can say any of that about Sky Moore right now. So on our 7, we ended up with Remigio as the odd man out. Toney and Sky Moore both made it. I can't talk about Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. I'm allergic to this conversation at this point, and for that I apologize. I gotta have some Claritin and just like a day without drops for Sky Moore.
It makes sense, yeah.
But that's the hard spot that I'm in right now. Apparently somebody asked Andy Reid about the puppet video, and he said that we don't spend a lot of time here with puppets. So great work, Andy. I'm going to review that here momentarily.
It's phenomenal.
It's a great line. My whole tweet timeline over here is all just packed with Hermit stuff again. Anyway, we have Remigio being the odd man out. I would say right now, if you were like, hey, you got to pick a guy to be a useful football player in 2024. I think I might take Nico over Sky. But Toney at this point, like I'm kind of in on his resurgence. I don't know if I was ever really out on Kadarius Toney. I cannot help myself.
As we're recording this podcast, Nate Taylor did report at training camp, and I can confirm with my eyes that Kadarius Toney was getting a lot of run with the ones. And not only a lot of run, a lot of targets with the ones. At wide receiver, not necessarily at running back, at wide receiver. So that kind of changes maybe the outlook that I would have had on this podcast maybe 24 hours ago that we recorded.
Yeah.
You talk about the guys that I think are locks: Hollywood Brown, Rashid Rice, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson. Those are, I think, your 4 locks on this roster.
Yep.
I don't think those guys are going anywhere. I'm very close to putting McColl in that lock range just because of why would he re-sign with the Chiefs if they weren't like, yeah, you'll get a roster spot, right? If he, according to him, had several teams that were interested in him.
Yeah.
Why would he side with Kansas City if he wasn't like pseudo-promised or told, hey, you got a really good shot. You're pretty much going to make the roster here. I think McCall Hardman makes sense, too, for like as a compliment to all the other receivers that they have. So really that's 5 guys right there. Now, here's the other thing, too, is just because last year the Chiefs kept 7 wide receivers, that was far from normal from what Andy Reid does.
And they only kept 3 tight ends. We're talking about 4 tight ends, maybe 4 running backs, maybe Lewis.
A.B. Lewis. That one. Hey, I got to see him catch a football at pads. That was interesting.
How'd he look?
Looked like a rugby player playing football. My observation. But I do think Nico Remigio has been playing really well. He's what impresses me about Nico is he's playing well with every quarterback. So he's on the same page with every quarterback. They have him going with Wentz, Ian Book, God bless his soul, and Chris O. I'm not even going to pronounce his last. Oladukin is what I've been saying, but I don't think that's actually how you say it.
I've been screwing his name up for an upsetting amount of time.
I think it's
Oladukin. Oh, man, you said it both ways now. Now I've lost it.
I've always said Oladokin, and I believe that our friend Jordan Foote calls him Goku because it sounds like a kudit. Wow.
I definitely was calling him Chris Oladukin at one point, and I think it's Oladokin.
Hadouken. That's what I was calling.
Chris Hadouken.
And that's why Jordan calls him Goku. But he works well with all those guys. And now I can't stop thinking about the pronunciation of his name.
Don't worry, I've got us. This is Chris, whatever his last name is, saying it in his own words, in his own voice, from this Chiefs media resource. Oladokin.
Okay, Chris Oladokin.
Chris Oladokin. It's just the okey doke. It's the Chris okey doke. Chris Oladokin.
Do you think the Chiefs can get around? Well, no, I still think that they would categorize Kadarius Toney as a wide receiver if they keep him on the roster, even if they do want to run him out running back.
I think
categorize a wide receiver.
The idea that he's got like running back 3.5 kind of energy, I do think is real. Like I think there's something to that. He's still a receiver, as you said. He's running with the ones at receiver. Like he's not switching positions at this point. But I do think you want to have some versatility across your position groups, however you can get it. And if Kadarius Toney can do that, then it makes him more valuable than someone who can't.
So my point here to like the how many players that they take, I think they keep 6. I think that's how many they keep because we're talking about 4 running backs, 4 tight ends. Like there's going to have to be a cut somewhere, right? I think they keep 6, and you have 3 guys vying for that 6th spot because we've talked about 5 guys that are pretty much darn near close to locks, and you have Sky Moore, Nico Remigio, and Kadarius Toney, and Kadarius Toney is getting the most run with the ones out of all of those guys. So I think on the initial 53, you're going to see, I'm calling my shot here, Hollywood, Rashid Rice, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, McCall Hardman, as I am a big Nico Remigio fan, I think Kadarius Toney makes it over Nico Remigio.
I agree on that. I think Toney is the leader of that trio if he's healthy, which is a legitimate if. Like, that's just something that's going to be a part of his evaluation. We did, in the math of it all, in part by just keeping the 2 quarterbacks, 9 linemen. I think they may have kept 10 initially last year. We did make it work with 4 tight ends and 7 receivers. Irv Smith also might be kind of your like sneaky key to all of this, where if Jared Wiley looks like he can be a reliable part-time player early in the year, you could almost certainly, I think, go ahead and just scoot Irv Smith to the practice squad. Alternatively, especially if like Rashid Rice gets suspended, I could see Irv Smith being the like mid-season roster casualty if he can kind of stabilize the group while Wiley gets his feet under him as a rookie. Then later in the year, maybe you let Irv go, bring him to the practice squad, keep him around there. He could even be at a game day elevation if you need him to. So there's room to get, let's see, 7 and 4 is 11 as 3 running backs, 14 runners and pass catchers that we made work. So at this point, and who knows what happens at running back, it is going to be a legitimate battle that I think those positions are going to impact each other during.
Power ranking wide receivers on the bubble. This is me off the top of my head coming up with this. As we mentioned, the 3 guys of Kadarius Toney, Nico Remigio, Sky Moore. Also, hey, you remember this guy, Justin Frost? I do. Also in camp.
Still there.
He is still there. I'm trying to think of other wide receivers that they have there. He is probably ahead of Sky Moore, I would say. Justin Ross is. Not by his own doing. I want to add that Justin Ross hasn't necessarily stood out this camp. I think that a lot of the highlights that we got last year from Justin Ross were during the one-on-one sessions, and he's not really. I was paying attention to him today during the one-on-ones on Friday, and I didn't really get a good ball. Right, he had Ian Book throwing him the football, so like that's probably a little bit of a handicap there. But he made a really good play in 7-on-7, I believe it was. He had a diving catch for a touchdown. That was from Carson Wentz. I do think it's going to be really interesting. I think Kadarius is the 1. I think Nico is 2. I think Sky Moore is 4, and Justin Ross is 3. So I numbered those weird, but I think those are power ranking the guys on the bubble, and your cutoff line is whatever the Chiefs want to decide. Like, if 7 wouldn't surprise me, I don't think, but I just want, like, people to know, like, that's far from the norm of this, of, like, Andy Reid in general. Just, like, how he builds rosters, like, I think that was the first or second time in his whole career he's taken 7 wide receivers on an initial 53.
And that group was terrible, and so you needed to keep whatever options you had. Like, you had to try for that. If you're way, way, way more confident in your top 4, top 5, top 6, it makes more sense to leave that 7th roster spot somewhere else, unless it's kind of a developmental thing. That's why I agree with your ranking in terms of how the players are performing right now and who I think has the best chance to have a big year, basically. I have no idea where the Chiefs are internally on Sky Moore in terms of, is there a player that can be reclaimed in there? Is there something that can be done to expand his usefulness? And if so, then he may end up getting a longer leash than guys they invested less in.
Josh, we still have our fastball. I'll tell you that. We still have.
I tell you, we do. We still do.
We just spent. It took about 5 minutes, so we spent about 15 minutes on Chiefs wide receivers right there.
5, 6, and 7 at that, or 6, 7, and 8.
We've still got the heater. We're gonna take a break. We'll get to more questions coming up next. Don't know if we'll get to all 21, but we will do our darndest. But first, I'm going to tell you about our friends at Braden's Hope for Childhood Cancer. Did you know, Josh, that 47 children are diagnosed with cancer every single day in the U.S. alone?
I learned that from you yesterday. It surprised me then, though.
It is kind of it's a stat that makes you say, "Oh, whoa, that's not good." At Braden's Hope for Childhood Cancer, they are working to make a difference in the fight against childhood cancer. In terms of cancer research, if you donate to somewhere for like cancer research, General Cancer Research Fund, only 4% of that money goes to childhood cancer research. Not a very big allocation there. And at Braden's Hope, they fund cutting-edge research to find cures and safer, more targeted treatments for childhood cancer, but they cannot do it alone. Join them in the fight, and us in the fight, against childhood cancer. Your support can bring hope to families and save lives. Visit bradenshope.org to learn more and get involved. Together, we can make a difference. We are going to take a break. We'll be back with more questions coming up right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone in any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts with you. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSN21. That's mintmobile.com/KCSN21. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSN21. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. This question here is from Casey and Casey. It was addressed to me, but I want us to kind of both talk about who our guy is. Casey and Casey says, now that Tommy's gone, who is your guy? But Josh, I want to know who your guy is.
You know, I throughout the phases of my guys, Jody Fortson was a very early my guy in the Time Czars era of what is now Only Weird Games. They drafted Noah Gray. Nate proclaimed him the majestic white horse on a sandy beach, and that was before I had diabetes and before I knew he had diabetes. Our bond only grew. And this isn't even in conflict with Noah Gray. This is just me continuing the brand that I've built and that I'm grateful to uphold. Give me Jared Wiley, man. I don't think he's going to be the most, impactful rookie on this team. I'd be surprised if he was higher than maybe 4th, because I kind of think Jaden Hicks might be climbing that ladder too. Obviously, Kingsley and Worthy are your top 2 expectations there. But I've said this on multiple shows, not just on this version of it, but like I don't think Jared Wiley is going to end up playing half the offensive snaps. What we talked about this weeks ago of like Noah Gray ended up with like 52% of the snaps each of the last 2 years. According to Pro Football Reference, and his workload's been pretty much the same. I don't even necessarily think that Jared Wiley's going to be tight end 2 at any point this year. But I think he's going to have half a dozen plays or so where we all drop our jaw and go, wow, that guy's different.
Yeah.
And that's the size and the speed and his range, his ability to go vertical down the seam. It may be a shot play like that. It may be a red zone target. But there's a little bit of that Jody Fortson kind of hype. He was a converted receiver, obviously. Wiley is, I think he did play receiver earlier on, but Fortson was a receiver in college. Wiley found the evolution of that role, and I think he could be a really useful, really interesting matchup problem as a modern tight end. And I'm pretty content to just be on that hype train and kind of ride it wherever it goes. Not super high expectations that he's going to bust into the entire like roster rotation super clearly, super frequently. But when he's on the field, I will be watching him.
He's going to have impactful snaps. He might not have a lot of them, but he will have impactful ones. I like that.
If he can be impactful this year and then pick up the workload in year 2,
yeah,
he might be a guy. Like I think that there's a world in which that really does develop.
Looking at the tight end usage from the Chiefs last year, Travis Kelce played 68% of the snaps. Now, I don't know if that's 68% of the snaps.
That has to. I think that's low. I think that's not. I think that's saying he played 0% in week 1 and week 18. Okay. That has to do with that. Because I think he was higher than that in the games. What side are you looking at? Just out of curiosity.
I am at Pro Football Reference. Is the website that I go to for.
Also, what I usually do.
I'm looking at his game-to-game snaps. Well, no, it says.
What number did you say?
I said 68, I think 62 maybe. Let me go back.
Okay, so I'm looking at the season snap counts on Pro Football Reference, and it says 77% in this other spot of 15 out of 15 games. So I believe that he played 77% of the games that he was in.
He was in 68 total.
Which translated to 68% of the Chiefs' actual total snaps. Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. So he had 68%. Noah Gray was at 52%. Other tight ends, Blake Bell at 22.21%. And that was Matt Bushman played 0.62%. Shout out to Matt Bushman in retirement. Happy retirement, buddy.
Happy retirement.
That was about it that the Chiefs had there for tight end. So you're kind of looking at if he comes in and plays 22% of the snaps, I think you'll be okay with that.
I'd be thrilled. Absolutely.
Yeah. My guy has to be Creed, though. It just makes sense, right? I was always kind of a Creed guy. I love the band. Scott Stapp is good. Creed is good. And Creed is also good at football. I like to watch him play football. There's a few offensive line clips, actually, in Chiefs News Daily that came out on Friday of Creed's. I didn't put these out on Twitter because, no one really wants to watch a center pass set on. They would much rather see Patrick Mahomes throw the ball 60 yards down the field.
You have limited bandwidth out there, too, so I guess that seems practical.
I had to pick and choose, but I made sure that in my section of Chiefs News Daily, I got to show everybody every rep of the starting offensive line in their one-on-ones. Creed Humphrey did really well. He did pretty darn good. He's pretty good at setting that base and not letting anyone drive him back. So he's a really good anchor there. But a very big Creed Humphrey guy. It also helped that I got to kind of chat with him a little bit at O-Line Masterminds. I got to meet with him and chat. That was pretty cool. But so he's my guy now, and we look the same. So that helps. This one is also from KC and KC. What is the feeling about KT essentially replacing McKinnon's role in the offense?
Excuse me. I think I've had a weird voice thing now for more than a month, and I thought I was mostly clear. I'm getting choked up thinking about Jake McKinnon.
Yeah.
I think that can't happen unless Kadarius Toney has pass protecting chops that we don't know about. Now, he is a relatively physical player for his size and his frame and everything. I don't think it's impossible that he could take a few pass pro reps that would actually work. I guess he's, in terms of reading the assignment and understanding if the blitzer is your responsibility or what's going on from the mental aspect of that. I have no idea if that's something he's been working on or that he's comfortable with or not. He might be. I don't know.
Right.
But that's the part of McKinnon's game that right now I am the most concerned about the Chiefs not having. Obviously, as a pass catcher and a feeler of the defense, he was really valuable. And I'm not super bullish on Clyde Edwards-Helaire even being able to replicate that part of the job. And Isaiah Pacheco is a very good running back, but you don't want him getting 90% of the snaps. That's crazy in the modern NFL. And he's a fine pass catcher, and he took a step last year. That could continue. But Toney as a pass catcher out of the backfield, I'm in on. Toney as an occasional runner, I'm in on. The change of pace kind of third down guy. There are parts of that comparison with McKinnon that I do think make sense. I don't know if he or Clyde or Deneric Prince or any of these guys have what it takes to be a pass protector chopping the legs out of blitzing linebackers on 3rd and 12. That to me ends up being probably the most important thing any of those guys can prove in the preseason. Because even it's different than it would be in training camp. I'm sure they're going to do plenty of work there, but when you know that Patrick Mahomes, or for that matter, Carson Wentz, is in danger of getting his block knocked off, and it's your job to cut that dude off at the knees, and you're not worrying about accidentally, injuring Drew Tranquil or whatever. I want to see what those live reps look like for all those guys.
If I had to ask you to guess, what percentage of snaps do you think Jerick McKinnon got last year? What would you say?
I guess it depends on which one you're looking at, because he only played like 10 regular season games, 12, 10.
The same list that I had Travis Kelce at 68, so it's...
Okay. Can you tell me how many games it was that he did play? I'm saying 10 is my guess. He got hurt, and he came back to the Super Bowl, but that was like a big deal injury. If you don't have that, it's fine.
Played in 12 games last year.
Okay, cool. I'm going to still say, with 5 no-shows, I'm going to say like 30%.
It's very close. It's 23.
I can live with
3%. He also, the second highest running back percentage on the team. So him playing in 12 games had the second highest percentage of snaps as running back on the team. Isaiah Pacheco had 50%. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 20%.
32% from the other way that Pro Football Reference does it, that I guess would edit it down. I don't know. There may be some discrepancies in there. Or maybe you might be getting playoff numbers. I don't know.
Well, that's true. It could be.
Regardless, that feels, again, he was an important part-time player. McKinnon in 2020 played almost half the snaps. I got him with 47% in 2020. And that was in a year where Pacheco was healthy. I mean, he had surgery in the offseason, right? 2022?
22, yes.
I think I said 2020, which Jerick McKinnon was a 49er in 2020. Right. So my bad, everybody. Sorry, I can't read or talk today. Didn't make that mistake in the last episode.
That's true.
But in 2022, I've got him with 47% of the snaps. The Chiefs lessened his workload last year, but kept him pretty active on special teams, which was kind of a weird move for a 31-year-old running back. So it was like, oh, we'll limit wear and tear and don't run him in the offense too much too early in the year. That makes sense. Why is he out there running down a punt or whatever it was that he was? Why is he the personal protector? Which I think he was for chunks of the year, if memory serves.
152 snaps is what I'm seeing in special teams. 35% of the special team snaps Jerick McKinnon was in on.
That's more special team snaps than he had either of the 2 prior years with the Chiefs, when he had way more. Well, I guess it's the most special team snaps he had with the Chiefs on way fewer offensive snaps than he had the year prior. In 2021, he played 13 games, and even those numbers are then a lot closer. But yeah, it was kind of a weird, but felt like a purposeful evolution. And honestly, that to me kind of felt like the beginning of the Chiefs saying that it wasn't going to be McKinnon as RB3 this year, because he didn't get that much of the work, even when he was healthy earlier in the year on third downs and beyond last season. It's a weird group.
I just hope Jerick McKinnon is happy.
I do too. It felt like he kind of wanted. He tweeted something recently, and like, I don't know, man. Here's my spicy take. I think 32-year-old Jerick McKinnon might be the second best running back on the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs. I think there's a chance of that being true. And I don't think that phone call's probably coming at this point. Be happy to be wrong.
He tore his ACL twice. Same age. Yeah. And he is, as you mentioned, 32 years old. Just turned 32. So happy birthday 84 days ago.
It also, I mean, on the topic of, if we're doing like a brief career retrospective, tore his ACL twice and played almost a decade in the league and was effective until the end. Like a quietly incredible career for a guy that, came out of Georgia Southern and he was a relatively high third-round draft pick, right? But, I mean, being able to come back from that as often as he did, genuinely incredible.
He got hurt in 2017 with Minnesota, right? Gets hurt in 2017, does not play a game in 2018.
Or 2019.
Or 2019 because he re-injured his ACL.
So you're right. That was the re-injury was right. You're right. Okay.
Yep. He re-injured his ACL as he was rehabbing it. And he doesn't come back. He doesn't play for 2 seasons. And then he comes back with San Francisco, has a respectable year, but then with Kansas City, he really, I think, found his role And look, I think Jerick McKinnon will be probably one of the most underrated players in terms of this back-to-back run. He willed them to the playoffs. What was that, 2022? When they didn't have anything going, and he was the offense. It was Jerick McKinnon on swing passes and making people miss. There was a stretch there where he had a touchdown in the last 6 Chiefs games. He was scoring touchdowns, and he had more receiving touchdowns that year than Justin Jefferson did.
I forgot about that, and that's delicious. Nothing but respect for Jerick McKinnon.
I love Jerick McKinnon so much. His
great
personality
vibes.
Also is his personality very infectious. The Bengals will sign Hakeem Butler, so shout out to them. They gotta stock the cupboards before all the receivers leave.
Yes.
So they said, why not take one from the Battlehawks?
Listen, man, how much help does Joe Burrow need?
I guess we'll never know.
We'll never know. We'll never find out.
You know what I thought was really funny, Josh, is he shows up to camp with that haircut, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he did a reverse Jimmy Butler. You know how Jimmy Butler always does the crazy haircuts and the crazy hairstyles for his media day, then he'll come back to normal?
Yes.
He did the reverse Jimmy Butler where he had, he grew his hair out long.
There were some locks there. He had some flow for sure.
Yeah, people were like, that's Anakin Skywalker.
Yes.
What was it? Hayden Christensen?
Hayden Christensen. He looked like Hayden Christensen, episode 3 Anakin, absolutely.
And people were like, we could see it. And then he shows up with the Slim Shady haircut, with the Cody Rhodes cut, and it reverse. He did it the wrong way.
I kind of like how Burrow did it, actually. Go ahead and be your glamorous best for picture day, and then before you're going to be sweating in that helmet for a month out in training camp, buzz that sucker down, and if you gotta bleach it to complete the look, you bleach it. I respect it. I really do. I've been over this many times, but I continue to be, I guess, KCSN's Joe Burrow defender, and certainly KCSN's foremost Joe Burrow fashion defender, because every couple of weeks he has a fit that I'm actively jealous of.
He had that one where his suit just was missing a back, and I thought that was actually hilarious.
I'm not even sure. He had that all pink at one point that I literally own the pieces for. I could be that Joe Burrow for Halloween. I'm not gonna be, but I could.
No, I was thinking of somebody else. Hakeem Butler didn't play for the Chiefs, did he? No, he didn't. I'm looking at
I don't think so.
There's a UFL wide receiver out there that played for the Chiefs. I'm pretty sure that the Bengals are poking around at. He didn't. I just looked it up in the transaction report, but I don't know. Let me go back to the questions here. Let's get back on the question topic here.
We've got at least 39 more to get to, so
yeah, we're tough sledding.
We're closing on that 40-minute mark, though.
That is coming in fast. It is coming in absolutely hot.
I have no excuse to be low energy. Tucker had to get up at the ass crack of dawn, get to St. Joe, record and watch live practice, and get back here, and he will continue working for longer today than I will. Tucker, let's get that next question, man. Let's go. I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying just hanging out. What's the next question, Tucker?
Seamus wants to know when the AES reunion pod is, and I think this is probably it.
It really sucks because the episode of this we did yesterday, it was me and Tucker and Beards and Rudy. We were all here in a 4-box, but the audio was lost at time. No, I will say, Seamus, that very, very confidently at some point, and this isn't coy, I don't have a plan in place, certainly nothing concrete, but at some point there's going to be a time that especially me and Beards and Rudy have some desire to do some amount of content that will just bubble up, and I don't know if it'll be a video game stream or if it'll be some sort of podcast cameo or what it would be, but I do stay in touch with both of them. How about this, everybody? Go and put this in your brain. Beards McFly, father.
Whoa.
Beards McFly, father of a baby boy named Nolan, a killer name who has to play baseball, which has to be crushing Beards right now.
Nolan McFly is a sick name.
Baby Beards.
Baby Beards.
Rudy's also doing good, but it's not as funny as the idea of Baby Beards.
Baby Beards is a good one. Rudy, yeah, look, I've recently talked to both of those guys. We're in a group chat on Twitter.
That's been so good already. Just getting getting the dudes in the chat just flexing recruiting wins. It's really been good for my soul.
Look, huge here. Craig's probably going to listen to this podcast and be pissed that we even mentioned his name because that's how Craig works. I mentioned his name. I'll stand on business there. I think number 5 overall recruiting class after a down year for Craig. 3 5-stars, 10 4-stars, 18 3-stars at the University of Colorado State University.
The Kansas City Scouts begin their first. They'll get their first college football playoff game pretty soon after we finish 21 questions here today. I think
that's exciting.
We're gonna be on the run.
The Rutgers Scarlet Knights. We had lost a lot on the offensive line. Look, we lost the reigning best running back in the country. Kyle Mongai went on to the NFL, 4th-round draft pick. Happy for him. Should we spin a wheel to see what team he goes to? Let's spin a wheel live to see what team he got drafted for. I will find an NFL team wheel so we can
fantastic full pressers. Even so, here's even this. I don't. If you can watch Chiefs pressers and the clips all go around. They stream them now. But Mahomes was asked. I can't remember who asked him. I don't know if it was do you remember who asked him about college football? I can't remember. I just wanted to credit whoever it was. Yeah. It could have been a real Stephen St. John question. I don't know. That would certainly fit. Whoever it was great. But they asked Mahomes if he'd been playing CFP 25 yet, and Mahomes doing a Road to Glory. Is that what it is? That's where you create a player.
Yeah, so the create a player is Road to Glory. Yeah,
Road to Glory. Okay, I haven't done that yet. I've just been all about Dynasty mode, but that may be next. He was like, oh yeah, had to make myself a 4-star. I had to be realistic, but it took me a year to get the starting job. Now I got a big game against K-State tonight, and he went into slightly tongue-in-cheek press conference mode right away, and it was great for it to watch him treat it that seriously ever so slightly. But it's also like here's what I did last night. So my wife Renee has no real her family is big K-State fans. She didn't go to K-State. Her brother did. Her parents did. Whatever. She's been around sports plenty. Again, football family, but it never really stuck with her. She was always a theater kid. But she really has no point of reference for football in the South and even really Big 12 football at kind of the inflection points. It's just a thing that her family gets excited about. So last night I showed her the video of Dabo Swinney taking the long ramp up to, we built this program on NIL. We built it in the name, image, and likeness of God. Because I knew that would explain perfectly what she was missing about the context of college football. Oh, yeah. This is one of the most highly paid people in the state. He is one of the best collegiate football minds and recruiters in the world. Yeah. He is football royalty. And every once in a while, he gets up there and he just sounds like a televangelist. That's just, and you got to hit those points, And so I gave Renee my whole spiel of look, I understand that you like to watch something else. We should, I don't need all of this TV just to look at my recruit names and do all the charts and stuff.
Right. Yep.
Well, listen, Renee, I care about winning and I care about the game. I don't want to pretend I don't care about games. I love a game. But I'm not just worried about building a good football program. I'm just worried about building good football players. Most of those young men are going to go pro in something other than football. And to me, what's important is we get these fellows out there and we prepare them to be ready on Saturdays. We prepare them to be the best football players they can be. We prepare them to win the Sun Belt Conference, which we did this year. And we prepare them to get to the college football playoff. I'm going to prepare my ass off to make sure they're ready for the playoff. But you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to make sure that when they go out into the world to be husbands, fathers, businessmen, joining the workforce, some good young men coming out of the Kansas City Scouts. Take your questions. I did that whole bit for Renee, who was to be clear, the least interested in that bit. that anyone could possibly be. Less interested than you, less interested than anyone listening to the show right now, less interested than Scout the dog, who the team is branded after. And a nod to the hockey team, of course, too. Right. That didn't even land for her in the way that I really needed it to. And that's still what I'm all about. And you better bet I'm gonna get that controller back in my hands, and we're gonna take this team to the playoff.
It's a lofty expectations. You took over for Old Dominion, right? Was that?
Yes, yeah, and that was I wanted to go small school, but I only have 350 recruiting hours, and so I didn't even realize I was doing recruiting on impossible mode. But yeah, it was when I was doing the team creator, and I've since adjusted it. I want the Scouts now to play at Western Kentucky Stadium because the mascot travels with you, and the mascot of the original team is on the field, and the Hilltopper Red Grimace or whatever looks sort of like a dog toy. It looks like a Kong toy or something, and I was like, that's the freak we deserve. We deserve Big Red. But it was way funnier just on the name slot to just like, I like the idea of like Scouts Old Dominion. Like there's more interesting than whatever. At Western Kentucky. But yeah, so I've taken over for Old Dominion. Again, won the Sun Belt finally, and it may be time to start looking at new conferences after this season. I don't want to cause any waves, but it looks like the Pac-2 has some space. I think this is a Big 12 team at heart. Again in Missouri, I feel like we could use a second Missouri team in the larger picture and get Missouri back into the Big 12. I think that's an important footprint for me to begin to step into. So that's what we're thinking about right now.
Untapped market, really.
It really is. I mean, look, if you want to go play for in the SEC or whatever, you can go compete with the SEC. But we got a Midwest to hold down.
Yeah, I think it makes all the sense in the world. At Rutgers, we're having some adversity early in our year two. We lost a lot on the offensive line, lost a lot, and also Kyle Mungai got drafted by the Denver Broncos fourth round.
It makes it even sting even more.
Yeah, it does. I saw that come across, and I was a little bummed. But, hey, look, we're putting guys in the NFL. That's what we're doing here at Rutgers. We're an NFL factory. Offensive linemen getting there, too. In the trenches, we really got to focus on that. We got to really recruit up in the trenches because we're running the ball 40 times a game. We are hitting the ground. We are running the football, milking the clock. We are time of possession merchants over at Rutgers, and we got a tough schedule this year. Unfortunately, lost one. Should have won against Purdue, and then we had Auburn come to town, and they – you know what? SEC football program, they kind of snuck up on us a little bit. That's all right. We were all a little bit unprepared. That's on me. But look, we got a target on our back. But we want a target on our back. At Rutgers, we want a target on our back. No one has higher expectations for our program than us. So we is greater than me. We're very excited to take on the upcoming challenge of the Rutgers Knights football program. There have been allegations of NIL fraud that I will not mention at this time, but we are going. But Josh, any final thoughts before we wrap up this 21 questions?
No, I just wish I had some merch to properly represent the squad. Again, I'm playing custom and everything, so I'm gonna have to piece that together. But no, look, I think we are at this point maybe more qualified to talk about the Chiefs roster than Brett Veach because we've built it up from the ground now. He took over a team that had Andy Reid as the head coach, and you went to Rutgers, and I rebranded Old Dominion. So I'm just gonna say, you mean Mahomes at least. I feel like we're all operating on similar levels. I'd like to see Brett Veach with a PS5 or an Xbox controller in his hand, personally. I'm just saying.
I'm going to make a resume and put all of my coaching experience from the game on there and submit it at like LinkedIn to like an NFL team or something like that.
That is a genius idea. It would be easier for me, even if I just didn't mention the Kansas City Scouts, because I don't think most people know who the head coach of Old Dominion is right now.
Right.
I get away with that.
That's fair. All right, that's going to do it for 21 questions. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us all the way until the end. Hopefully this audio does hit your earwaves and it didn't mess up. But we do appreciate you guys. Stick with us. Leave a 5-star rating or review. If you do leave a 5-star review, I will read it on air whatever podcast I'm on. That's a guarantee. That's the Tucker Franklin guarantee. I read 5-star reviews, so make sure to go do that. For Joshua Briscoe, I'm Tucker Franklin. This has been 21 Questions. We will catch you guys next week. See ya.